Hey everyone, welcome to my first YouTube tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how I created this piece right here. I'm obsessed with gold, so I just had to do one with a golden beach. This is my second successful one. I have tried a few times to get the lacing and the cells that are in this piece, and I just couldn't do it. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. I was using my heat gun correctly, my torch correctly. I just could not get this done. I was on Amazon looking for an inexpensive white pigment when I found this. This right here is my hero. It has saved me from wasting resin for like the rest of my life. If it weren't for this, this video would not be here. I found this on Amazon. There will be a link below in the description. It's inexpensive. I think it was like $8. It's concentrate, so you only need like 2 drops. I use these cups right here when I'm mixing in my pigment for the white, since it's less white than the other colors. I fill it up to like right about here, the resin. Then I put like 2 or 3 drops, and that's it, and it works perfect. This is my first successful beach. It has the 3D effect as well as this one. This one is 4 layers. In this video, I'll be showing you step by step what I do for each layer, how I achieve this look, how I got these cells. Any products that I use, there will be links down in the description so you can buy them on your own and try this out for yourself. So here we go. Let's get to it. So this is the beginning of layer 1. I pre-mixed my resin off camera. I used KS resin. There will be a link in the description and a code for a discount. For the tint of the resin, I am using phthalo green and bright aqua green acrylic paint from Liquitex. You can get it from Michael's. As I mentioned, I'm using the Cast and Craft for the white. Before this, I gessoed the heart, like 3 layers, and I sanded between each layer. Then I painted it with acrylic. The gold, obviously, for the beach. The colors are kind of there to make sure if the resin is transparent that the color is still underneath there for that first layer. And it's also a bit of a guide for me as to where I need to put the resin. Now, I'm adding glitter. I'm adding iridescent glitter I got from the dollar store, my local dollar store. And I added a Caribbean glitter that I got from Walmart. And when you mix it up, you want to make sure that you have it in a nice consistency and that it's even throughout. I noticed that I didn't quite have enough, so I had to add a little bit more. Luckily, it did not change the transparency, so I didn't have to add any more acrylic paint. I'm only going to show you the mixing this once, but the mixing is the same for each layer. Except the pigmented ones, I put a little bit less of the acrylic, so that is a little bit transparent so you can see. I begin to put it on where I painted where the dark is. For this one, I just taped underneath it because I wanted the resin to run over the edges. Sometimes I just prefer that look, and sometimes I don't. Like for my top coats on my acrylic pours, I tape the sides because I want that cleaner edge. But for this one, I decided that I wanted the resin to run over the sides. So the white would run over the sides and it would be frothy like the ocean. I just blend it with my craft stick or popsicle stick, whichever you prefer. Then I'm using my heat gun to just pop those little bubbles initially. Now I'm adding clear resin on top of the gold, and I mentioned that I gessoed it so that it would have a little bit of texture. I used a sponge roller, and if you've ever used a sponge roller, you know that it will leave texture behind. Between each layer, I did sand it. So I'm adding the white where I want the first layer of the sea foam to begin. And I'm using my heat gun low and slow. That's very important and very key. One thing is about torches, I do use that to pop those bigger bubbles, but they will not pop the smaller bubbles the way a heat gun will. A heat gun will make the heat permeate the resin better than a torch, take over more, and it won't burn it like a torch can. I'm adding resin to the sides of the beach so it's nice and smooth and glossy like resin is. I just love the shine of resin. Here we go with layer 2. I added the seashells off camera because I didn't think about it till then. I just took 2 little bitty seashells and stuck them there, and they're not going to go anywhere because the resin had not cured when I added them. So like I mentioned earlier, the mixing for each layer, the phthalo green and the bright aqua green, I put less and less in it so that it would be transparent. As you can see where the white is, the sea foam is underneath it, and that's going to give it that depth that oceans have in them, and it look more natural, like an aerial view, as if you're flying over the ocean in a helicopter. Now I add clear resin like I did in the first one to the bottom right there, a little extra. But when I add the white, I add it below the clear resin so that the white is going to be the edge and not clear resin. Because if you want to do a 3D piece like this, you don't want the clear resin to be the edge. Because in the ocean, it's white. That's the edge. There's no water in front of it. It's just white. So I want to try to put that on here. The white wasn't quite as thick as I wanted it, so I did add more. Like I mentioned, use your heat gun low and slow. It is going to get the heat to move throughout the resin. Use my torch to pop the bigger bubbles. Add a little bit more, and I have that thick. It did come down a little bit farther than I wanted it, but I'm still pleased with the way that it turned out. Okay, layer 3. I put the acrylic paint a little bit less than the layer before, so that is transparent. I'm putting it just a little bit further back because each layer is going to be further back than the one beneath it. This time I'm making sure that the resin does not come down too far. So I made sure I put it back just a little bit, just in case the fluidity makes it move down a little bit more when I heat it with my heat gun. And I'm using a Wagner Inferno. I want to say it's the 300, but it could be the 600. I can't really remember. I love Wagner heat guns. You can get them at Lowe's and Home Depot or online. They're awesome. And the torch that I use, I just got off Amazon. Very inexpensive, about $10. I already had a can of butane because they do not come filled. You have to fill them when you get them. And it's very easy. You just stick it in the hole and it fills up. Like I do on each layer before, I put that clear resin down and I put the white below it. This time I made sure I put it a little bit thicker so I wouldn't have to put so much on it, as I decided I want the foam to be thicker than it was. Just a little bit more of the clear resin and then the white below it. And see, it's already started to come down some. That's why I made sure that it was back a little bit using my heat gun. Making sure that it is the way that I want it to look. I did have a little accident. Now, if you spill your resin, if you get a paper towel or a cotton ball with isopropyl alcohol, and it will get up any resin that you spill. Don't put it on your hands. Please don't put it on your hands. If you get it on your skin, just use some warm soapy water. As I'm finishing up, I'm noticing I have a little bit below that I need to get up, so I just, like I said, I used the paper towel with some isopropyl on it, and it works perfect. Now, with layer 4, there's a little bit less of the phthalo green and bright aqua green added to the resin. I keep repeating myself. I know that. This is my first video, so please forgive me. I'm making sure that I have that layer far enough back so that when I do add the white to it, it's not going to come down too low over the layer beneath it. And you can see how underneath, you can see each layer, the white of it, the seafoam of it, you can see each layer beneath it. As far as adding the clear before I add the white, I have tried doing it without doing that before, and for some reason the resin just, it wouldn't flow throughout the rest of the piece. It wouldn't take as much coverage. So I had seen a fellow artist over on Instagram, and she did the same thing, and I'm like, maybe that's what I need to do. And it works like a charm. I don't know if maybe that's what some people have been missing while doing it, and maybe it doesn't work for some others. But for me, it works perfectly to help give it a little bit extra power behind that resin so it will spread throughout the rest. Use your heat gun low and slow. And this is how I created this piece. Good luck to you if you try it out. I love it. I know you will if you do it. But you have to know kind of when to stop. Sometimes I'll get overexcited and continue using the heat gun, and you don't want to do that. If you do drop anything in it or a hair or whatever, you can just get that out with a pen or whatever. So, good luck if you try this out. With love.